and welcome to the New World Review. I'm Grandline Waifu, and today we're in wrap-up mode, so let's wrap up these ants in an ant pie of some kind and get into episode 136. Episode 136 is really a mop-up of all the unknown, unclean pieces of information we thought we needed or thought we had but didn't. We saw characters we haven't seen in a long time, and I sort of enjoyed that, especially given Togashi didn't hide from the trauma and difficulties that essentially come from war. The dead were laid to rest. The horrificness of life is that it proceeds whether people are dead or alive, whether we miss them or not, and all we can do is hang on and hope things get better or easier or clearer or, I don't know, something. Sorry, this is really dark. I mean, but so was the arc, so maybe this is fine. I'm okay with this. And seeing all these characters in different stages of that process was very cathartic for me. Just me. Maybe you, but mostly me. It was crying season, in fact. Definitely as soon as I realized who little Ant Buddy was, because she's been on such a journey from start to finish that I had given up hope we would find out more about her and find out where she'd gone. And I really didn't think that she was the kid. I don't know. I probably did. Anyway, she's been on such a journey and I feel for her. I felt for her. I felt so much for her. Togashi has such a habit of leaving things unsaid or unfinished, and that's just a note that we have no idea what's happened to Piggy or Cow Guy. I don't know. What's his name? Killwa's brother, like Piggy? I don't know. That's the name I remember. So that's the name he has. We only seem to get closure on very specific situations, and so I find it interesting which ones we do get that closure for. Tugging on my heartstrings like that with her and her mother who knew her immediately because she's a mum? Stop. It's too much. I'm far too susceptible to that kind of emotional manipulation. And apparently so was Shrimp Bug Guy, which is unfortunate for him. Octobuddy managed to achieve so much in the short time he had to influence people, and he really is quite the MVP of the series, when we think about it, given the lessons he's taught Killua also. Because let's note that Killua is ready to set a boundary. He's sick of just taking what Gon is willing to hand him, and thanks to Octobuddy, he now has expectations for friendship. This kid whose only friend was one of his butlers, who he certainly didn't respect, now he's got a friend he does respect and who's shown it to him, and he's not the same character anymore. Not the same person. Meanwhile, Gon, a 12-year-old boy, is all kinds of messed up because he isn't a 12-year-old boy anymore. Like, is he a 30-year-old boy? Or did he just, like, shrink? That's weird. Physically, emotionally, I mean, what are we even supposed to... I'm amazed he's alive. Has someone cut his hair? Can you cut hair that goes on into infinity? Should you try? Did he, like, shrink back when his hair got cut? Like, what's the deal with that? And I really don't understand how Killwa's going to dark side Gon back to life. Is he going to just zap him until he's back? You know, I could imagine that in a sort of Pikachu reviving Ash kind of way, or at least the attempt. The soundtrack for this scene between Killua and, I guess, the glass wall to Gon was wonderful, and it spoke very clearly to the romance rather than purely platonic friendship, at least on Killwa's part. It's very much the soldier returned from war vibe, which is, for me, thematically yummy. Is Killua going to hunt down someone else who can heal? If Pito could do it, then others must be able to. Maybe Killua knows who they are and will just hunt them down, eat them, take their energy, and come back and fix it himself. He seems the type. I like the idea that revenge is kind of the reason Killua wants Gon to survive. It's such an enemies to lovers kind of trope, except backwards, sort of. Killua saying that Gon always leaves him to clean up, but now he'll clean up and Gon will apologize. All of that is quite the entertainment factor. Meanwhile, Welfin has survived, and he's an old man dog now. Moving on with his life, his dogliness is in the company of still the ultimate villain of the series. And I cannot begin to tell you how much this is like, we had a whole arc where we were questioning humanity versus Bug. And then there's this guy. This guy just survives. You know? Like, and that's truly the thing. The ants are just on a hunt to find the person they trusted and remember feeling loyalty toward. In a way, their purity is sort of maintained, you know, in that way. And they're hopping a ride with Bezoff because they need to hop a ride with Bezoff. They don't have anyone else to hop a ride with, and they're not beholden to the behaviors of humans. On a wrap-up episode, that's something I love about it, really, because the ants are sort of a study in what happens when you take away the concepts of human stigma, expectation, and judgment. There are a few rules involved in ant culture, and a few expectations, but the fact that the ant who followed Leol around dismissed him immediately once he was dead didn't feel like a hugely bad thing to me. They were allies. They weren't together out of an emotional connection, and it never seemed that way. If anything, she was with him because he provided safety and comfort, and while we as humans tend to associate that with emotional connection, there's no reason to believe that that's the case for anyone or anything else. Speaking of emotional connections, I simply do not remember the order of operations. I suppose Kite would have been edible immediately, but why was he hiding in the empty cavern of a dead ant? As a small child, a babby. And of course, Jing crawls out of the woodwork to run the Hunters Association, and I really feel like he's too much of a doofus based on what we've seen, but it also very much tracks with the sense of ambition involved in the Freak family. Let's check out episode 137 and see if anything gets any better. 137, and it's a whole new group of people. Members of the Zodiac. Great. I'm not going to remember this, though the animals are cute as heck, and I love the idea that Jing is a pig, and I like how these animals work. They look cute, but I'll never see that again, and I will never remember that. The idea that Jing is one of the Zodiacs is an odd one, especially given last episode. I would have assumed he was coming to take over, and I did assume he was coming to take over. I said it like less than a minute ago, I'm fairly sure. You know, you only see people like Bezoff doing the admin on shows like this, and I think it's been seriously overlooked. But then again, there's Beans. Beans. I like Beans. I love that name. I think it's a fantastic name. I think everyone should have a friend called Beans. Looking at the new opening credits also, we have a Miss Trunchbull. And we get back to Leorio, who has maybe learned to do a thing, but not Kurapika. Because Kurapika's had his arc. Like, why would he come back? That seems silly. The episode is remarkably lighthearted and obviously is designed to set up the new arc, and it will be an interesting arc. We have Hisky back, we have a whole load of hunters, and we have a situation in which we get to see the Freaky family spending time being freaky and strange. It seems as though Jing feels the same way about Netero as Gon does, mostly. In fact, more. There's a sense that Jing is as lacking in subtext as Gon, but at the same time seems to have a whole lot more of it. I'm not too sure what to make of him, if I'm honest. Rat, though. Rat is a concern, largely because he's annoyingly obvious. I actually do like Rat, which is a strange thing for me to say at the beginning of the arc, but a stranger thing for me to say in the tone that I said it. And I said it like that because I rarely make such a snap decision about characters, and I quite like what Rat seems designed to do. I quite like what Rat seems designed to do. Yeah, I said it. That said, he is a concern, largely because he's annoyingly obvious. I don't know if I like this new band of people, but then I struggle with the transition from each arc to the next because I get attached to the story as it was, then don't want to move on. I don't know. I don't understand how this pacing works, but I feel jarred. As I do watch these one by one, the way it would have been seen originally, I do wonder sometimes whether I should take a break at the end of one arc to emotionally disconnect from the last group of harebrained warriors to empty the cache of information, ready for a new one. I can only keep so many names in my head at one time, and I feel like I shouldn't be expected to remember 11 new names. But this is me rehashing my issue with Togashi's writing when it comes to the opening of arcs, and it's been a while. But like a Shakespeare play, start slow and bring your people into it. Please, please, I beg. And I can only assume it's the last arc that exists because we're getting very close to the end of what I'm seeing as available. It's quite difficult to talk about this episode because it's all set up rather than anything else. And as much as I'm somewhat interested in the storyline being presented and the fact that it's a return to the Hunter exam concept, there's a feeling of inadequacy that comes from having been so far away from the concept of the Hunter exam and then just boing, here we are, we've returned to it. But then that's the point of the sequence, I guess, to see after all that emotion, after all the heartbreak and loss and realizing that humans are the real monsters, nothing effectively changes. The world, as I said, keeps turning, and so we return to the points we were at before because we simply don't have a choice to do anything else. We continue on our monstrous path with people like Hisoka and Illumi, and we note that there's another Zoldyck, apparently. More Zoldyck! Yay! Hisoka's desire to fight people continues, and did it ever stop? And in fact, you know what? If he wanted to find the ultimate person to fight, he should have tried getting off his butt and helping out with the ants. He missed out on fighting an ant king. I don't get it. And he's here looking for Jing when it would make so much more sense. I just, from a power perspective, I don't understand why I should care about this situation now. And that's part of it. Why now? Why this arc now? Why is this happening here? Why is this happening now? I'm not seeing that. What is it about this that's important? I understand that Gon finally meeting his dad is hugely important to the narrative of the overall story, the overarching story. Gon was searching for his dad, that was the point. But beyond that, especially since Gon wasn't the focus of the last arc, like it's hard to connect. right. I feel less connected to all of this than I want to. That said, maybe laughing at these newer, almost by necessity weaker characters will be an enjoyable situation. And so I shall do my best not to judge, and I will only say that's it from me. If you enjoyed this lack of surety about the next arc and the enjoyment of the end of the last, click here, here, and here. Do all the good things, keep warm or cool depending on your climate, and I'll see you next time.